Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining Archangel Alts. This is Gordon Freeman, the free man, leading you from the darkness into the light through the power of the crypto revolution. So, speaking of darkness into light, let's do the not invisible thing. Fantastic. So, market watch time. Crazy, crazy, crazy times for the market. So let's watch it. Oh yeah. You know what I'm talking about. So, start at the most obvious place to start. Looking at Bitcoin traded against Tether USDT, the only stablecoin that currently matters to trade against. Interesting. Okay. We currently have $264 million volume, 24 hours in dollars measured against Tether USDT, and that is down from the $539 million that was the last high. And so now we're settling into yet new unknown territory because we just barely scratched the surface of an all-time high in the massive Bitcoin pump. There was definitely a technical engineers type personality internal pump type scenario. So, I'm not really interested in the predictive side of things. I feel like I know exactly how it was orchestrated, where it came from. The speculation on it around it has been so hilarious that I turned it into a news thing, so you can enjoy that. But the current value, we're going to watch what we are always looking at, which is what kind of volume does it take to sustain the current value? And the answer is always that it takes more than what just the natural trading volume does on its own. So it's always being lifted up or dragged down by something outside of just natural movement, which means that, of course, when you are next level, when you've got 1,000, 10,000 more BTC and you can put millions into pumping or you already have something invested in a short position, and so helping to drive the value down only goes to further your positions, etc., etc. That kind of is natural, everyday manipulation type movement, just on a grand scale. So, manipulated, in my opinion, manipulated versus just natural flow is whether it's just the common guy and a lot of them versus something that is organized by something larger than just your typical pump group that has maybe 1,000 Bitcoin collective, if that. Most of the pump groups don't have the power to be that organized. So I've noticed that the larger stuff seems to have a pattern in kind of foothills before the pump, meaning that you can see like one larger than normal wave, then one larger than normal wave, and then there's this huge, massive spike of, it takes tens of millions of dollars that most pump groups are just average Joes that don't know how to trade. And they follow somebody that's kind of the ringleader that's barely larger than themselves. They know how to organize and tell people to shill and that kind of stuff. But, the bottom line is that the natural movement can only move so large, so quick. So when things settle in, let's say it settles down to, like 47.50. And then it's back to its like $130 million 24-hour volume type scenario. Under those conditions, the question is whether there's more just general buying up with that volume, because it can steadily rise as long as the sell-off is not too hard against it. What happens is that it slows down enough to where it either only leaves the people that are waiting for a sell-off, or that there's a natural fear that it's going to drop, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People start selling off because they're scared it's going to sell off. So, it's like, I don't know, it's slowing down too much, better get out of this. And, wait for the next cycle. So I'm going to check and see whether any of our friends are hanging out for this late process here. All right, I think we're good. Let me make sure. Yep, looks good. So, hey there, Ezio. It's good to see you, man. So I was going to check this out real quick. See. My goodness. There we go. XRP. Ezio just posted this in our private group that you should come join. So finally, it's on the run to catch up with the other guys. It's like, hey, listen, that's not fair. Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin, they get to go up. Why can't I go up? That's exactly how XRP's voice sounds, by the way. So this was, yeah, just about 2 days ago. And you can imagine what that coincides with. And then now we have the mirror effect happening over here. So it's one of the few that would have the energy to go gangbusters like this. And it's interesting how throughout here it has not been, well, actually this is synced up with Bitcoin. This was the way that everything reacted with Bitcoin going way too far up. So check this out. You're going to love this. And boom. So we have this over here. And now look how it's amazing how tiny this looks here. But there we go. There we go. That's all it takes now. Volume's in half. Okay. So XRP is the perfect size to take advantage of that. But there's also the warring of the two things. Brings up to the special fantastic word decoupling. XRP kind of one of the leaders in the decoupling movement. You know, we don't want to have to rely on Bitcoin for our goings ups, our goings downs. And yet, it's finally kicking in here for XRP. None of this on this scale is just natural fluid movement. So it's a little bit difficult, to report on the state of the market without, stating the facts, which is there's a lot of people that, have a few thousand more BTC, maybe 10,000s more BTC than we do. So we see the effect that the decisions that we're not necessarily in on, what those impacts have on the market. And yet we learn how to swim with and around those things to find the best positions and make the best decisions. And surgically make the right incisions. It is a tricky process, this stuff. So I'm going to make sure that I've got the link here. Make sure and register for the webinar. We've kind of got this thing running regularly now. There's easier. Oh, got to press play. Okay. Yep. So here we go. Make sure that everybody's got what they need. Very, very cool. Very good, yes. Very good. So back to this crazy market. So IOST. OM goodness, IOST. So from what I understand, they got a $200 million investment round. And that's exactly when they started going up on their own. So kind of like either miraculous or just incredibly lucky timing on their behalf. But we have this on 329 and maintaining it right around here. We were already watching how about 30-40 up was really, really good for IOST. We had been in around the 220s for natural kind of movement. And you can see that this was happening before the Bitcoin thing happened. So then it rode the sink up there and rode the sink up there. It's been incredibly good for it. Really challenging on the trading, though. I've tried getting in on that one a few times, and it's been a little bit challenging. But we did take advantage of ION and LSK or LISK and several others in the process. We got hurt by Go, and that one got shot down. We were within, literally just the last couple of points of clearing when there was a small spike that happened while the volume was still low in Bitcoin, and that we came back around 4 different times almost there, and then when the big one went up, it just knocked it down. So we have like a 3-day hold hodl on Go position, one for browser, one for client. Everything else is going well. It's what's been happening has knocked pretty much everything that has been sitting before down a notch. And so if we look at, I'm going to actually go through just the visuals on, yeah. So you can see this is the up that everybody is reporting, which if you go all the way down to, let's say 59, and then you come up to 69, which is great, or 7,000, that's great. But you were at 7,900 before, and now you've come all the way up to 7,100. We can all understand that the 7,100 is lower than 7,900, right? So that 15% up is up from 27% down. It went 27% down and then came up enough to where it's 15% up from the lowest point down. Okay, so we understand that, right? So this actually came up slightly higher than it was. So congratulations. But that is, once again, that's 14% up from its lowest point here. Okay. So that came up just shy of where it was before. So good job. CDT, a lot of the coins that none of us were really watching have come out slightly better than where they were, which is pretty impressive. It just don't assume that because Bitcoin is, worth $700 more, that everything else is on that same scale. It got knocked down really hard and then has come up after that. So you can see this best peak here, 25.90, and about where this was over here was 26.40. Okay, so is this just me complaining about just a few of them? Well, you decide. Is this higher than this? Is this higher than this? So far, your answer should be no. Is this higher than this? Almost, maybe? Yeah, ONT, I have actually been impressed by. The frustration is that it actually was up at 33,000 before the Bitcoin thing. And so it's up to 32, it made it to 33,000 again. Just a few hundred points shy of where it was. So I see a good trajectory here again. And here's the thing is that, now these things are slightly in sync with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is doing a steady up right now without doing a dramatic boost to its volume. It's at 265 million 24-hour volume still. So if that volume shrinks while it's going up to 5,000 again, we're actually going to have a resync where Bitcoin's worth that much more and everything else is where it was already started from. So technically that's better for Bitcoin and the alts. Okay, look at QLC. This is how it quote-unquote benefited from the Bitcoin spike. I'm making a point of this because I think it's absurd that the news outlets don't do any of this research. Spend 30 seconds on the charts to understand for themselves. They're saying that all of the the larger coins, Litecoin, Ethereum, XRP, benefited from the spike, and the alts all saw a boost as well. Well, if I showed you the screenshot from just a few hours ago, you would see literally 90% red and a little bit of green. But now the green looks like it's predominant, but it's predominant coming up from negative 24%. So if you come up 5% from a negative 24% drop, that's down here. It's not up here. It's down here. Not. Is. Okay. So is this consistent? You decide. Okay, good. ONT, we were talking about that. It's like, yeah, you already talked about that. Okay, gas. A little bit less, not too terribly bad. CLR, the most recent listing on Binance. And you just about can't see it without. So it was at about 635, now at about 390, not quite 50% drop, but not super healthy. In my personal opinion, I think you might agree. Okay. DNT was seeing some movement up here before the drop. Okay. A little bit less. A little bit less. Good bit less. Now, I want you to keep in mind, these are the ones that are in the green. Okay, so somebody goes out there and says, all altcoins in the green as of Bitcoin pump. Okay, are you going to tell them that they're wrong? Okay. XLM finally coming into it. And that's the thing, is that they shift back over to volume. This could actually start the process of being good, but unfortunately we've got to come back to where we were before that really is meaningful. So if you were already in, you still haven't made up your losses yet. If you weren't in, then these are new opportunities, buy the dip. Sure, I understand that. So you're going to get a huge mixed bag of what people think about this stuff out there. Fortunately, we have very few positions in the overall picture, but the ones that we do have, it's pretty much what everything else has done, which is it's got to fight its way back up again. So that kind of puts the actual natural flow of the trading process behind. And so, I'm going to just kind of move quicker. You can see it is the case throughout. Oh, yes, it is true. Girl, it's true. Bitcoin knocked down you. No, okay, no. Not going to even try any further than that. QTM, QQC. So, that, not terribly off from that, but Ethereum Classic, yeah, what you gonna do? So even some of the very low volume coins followed exactly the same trend. Come on down. There you go. Okay. So now I'm going to look directly at the ones that people will be thinking the most. And of course, ADA is kind of thrown into the mix with the big guys. It's been tracking like almost identically to what the larger coins have been doing. In the smaller ups and downs that track with Bitcoin and the larger ones. Interesting to me, I do think it's interesting to watch. Bitcoin Diamond may not be done tracking with Bitcoin, in which case if Bitcoin goes double and it can catch up with it, we might see some recovery from those very, very, very early Bitcoin Diamond positions when it was out of sync. Binance was out of sync with CoinMarket. It was really the only time I've seen that with a coin that was only tracking different on Binance. Okay. So, looks to me like Ethereum is still working its way back up. One of those that supposedly benefited so much from the up. And Litecoin, tracked right with Bitcoin as well, so let's see how it's doing. Okay, Litecoin actually benefited. It's the one coin that actually benefited, I think, from exactly the same degree as Bitcoin. And though Ethereum did have a little bit of wiggle room in there to trade against if you were concerned about trading against the Litecoins, the problem is that it did exactly the same pattern as the Litecoins, but it always takes a lot more volume to equal the same change and moves. It tends to be very difficult to budge. So with XRP, it had the most drastic immediate down that I've seen out of the others. It was trading like almost literally sideways, and now it is working very hard to come back up to the 76.50 it was worth to begin with. So just be careful with these, because all they're trying to do is to pump their own recoveries, and because they are the giants in the pack, they have the most to lose from not being in the right position. The true winners throughout the process were the ones that tracked directly with Bitcoin. I thought they were a hard fork. Well, a hard fork is still Bitcoin on a hard fork. So these two guys, if you want to follow the breadcrumbs to and from, then the, in quotes, future of Bitcoin, and the other one being Bitcoin SV as opposed to Bitcoin Cash SV, both of them very deceptive in their presentations of themselves, and yet they are in the strongest position to actually be the future of Bitcoin, which makes me a little bit. So that is pretty much the big overview. I'm going to see whether anybody posted any special requests. Hey, check this out. Hello to Michael Bulmer. Thank you for writing. The 1 hour shows a 25% spike. No manipulation, but market driven. It's like ping pong. Okay, so tell you about Litecoin. It stayed in almost perfect sync with Bitcoin. I would agree with you for the most part that today has been kind of about just sitting back and letting things settle after a big time insider pump. There was about $100 million worth of Bitcoin bought all at the same time from 3 different locations, and that is almost certainly connected directly with the $80 million that it took to get Bitcoin to stay pumped in the pumped position and continue its pumpable maintenance. I have seen some manipulation today, but only kind of at a crossover point and very, very, very small in comparison. So if we were to look over here, back at Bitcoin 265, it's just still sitting natural. But the thing is, we're getting into that 1 a.m. range again. So, watch out, there's a pump coming at you. Is that the new normal? Could very well be. There was some of that, December, January, February, March last year, until people were so freaked that it was just huge sells and very small pump and dump groups. And then every new coin listing was, coin listing, the new hope, where, every single thing got a major, initial strike, and then fell 60% shortly after. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. But, okay, you asked specifically about Litecoin. So we shall talk specifically about Litecoin. Make sure and join our group, Michael, if you're not already in there. Hope you are. I appreciate your asking. Let's see. Let me get back over here. Okay. So, yeah, you can see it's getting some new spikes right now. So it had made it to 17.5, and it was about 17.59. So let's just kind of do the walking through, Litecoin. This is your life. So, yeah, that was a rough day. That was actually 2 decimals less in its normal value over here. 1203. So it definitely benefited from the new high when Bitcoin was 20,000. But if somebody wanted to calculate, let's see, that's less than a third, where Bitcoin would be less than a third. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, it really has been tracking pretty much the same the whole time. I think that I would guess, without having a decimal calculator to do it the right way, doing the difference the right way, I would say that it's 17, 18 is, compared to its 25, is stronger than Bitcoin's 5,000 to its 20. I mean, it just seems obvious just from looking at the visuals alone. This has got to be a stronger up at 5,000 BTC 24-hour volume than Bitcoin trying to maintain basically 4,900, 4,950 at 200 million or better. So I wouldn't expect to ride Litecoin straight into the sunset. I don't think that it's just going to double and triple and triple and triple on this trajectory. I think that it's a really good trajectory. It might even be a little bit of an indicator of this one. My question is whether people that are investing heavily in Litecoin are looking for something like this in order to do a next charge up. Because, look at how massive that is. Yes, this is pretty amazing, but the short compressed period of time to do this much. I don't know if it would have happened if it hadn't dropped as low as this. And that takes either somebody that can literally weigh, 4 or 5 times the value at buy-ins this low, that is able to sell through everything in between to get down there, or if somebody is selling off while they're buying in, it can actually trail down there. It's not the same as a wash trade, but it's a way to get it down that low. But anyway, I don't know whether it takes something that extreme to get people to jump into a buy-in like this. But if you look just at this part alone, that happened just over a year ago, it's almost exactly the same amount that it took here. So pretty darn cool. But I like Litecoin. Don't have anything against it. I don't find it extremely useful for the faster paced trading, but I think for longer term positions, I think it's an interesting thing. So very cool. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So yeah, that kind of inspires me to go back through the alphabet a little bit and look at these just one more time. I'm going to kind of hit some of the ones that I think are interesting. You look at the massive movement that it's done down here, but in comparison to who ADA has been before, it's kind of a we ain't seen nothing yet, and most of these are going to be the same way. So things have felt, extremely substantial. But for most things, we're just getting started. The BAT, Basic Attention Token, I like to say Basic Attention Span, which they do the Brave browser, good for them. That is definitely the future direction of what coins and blockchain should be doing for the next internet. But huge deal that, this does go back far enough for it to actually matter all the way through the first $20,000 spike. It is one of the few coins that has beat its initial spike record since being listed on Binance. And Binance has been a huge indicator for other coins in their history if it goes back further than Binance. So, BCPT has a lifetime to go. Bitcoin, isn't that fascinating? All the gripe over this. And we have quite a bit to come back before the Bitcoin crash, Bitcoin Cash hard fork. Yeah. Really don't fully understand, you guys. I know that the torrent thing is humongous, and it was a launchpad project with Binance, but still, Tron just hasn't been extremely good at protecting the outcome on stuff. So I just, Tron heads, I think it's absolutely fine to, I don't have to agree with every single project, but I would just be cautious with that one, because it seems like a lot of people went in the thousands of BTCs at 27, 28, 29 on BTT, and it's now currently hovering between 15 and 17. So there's like one grouping of positions of about 100 BTC out of the several thousand that are sitting. And those are BTCs that could be adding liquidity to the marketplace. So that's my thing there. And I'm saying all that while I clicked on something different. So this is what I was talking about. Now on to here. Tiny little mirror of exactly this over here. DNT. ENJ, another one that has broken that pattern. Now ENJ, some of it was actual natural FA, fundamental analysis. And what we see is that it far outdid its initial spikes. ENJ is engine coin, and they are kind of, at least the way that people surrounding the news around engine, it is kind of leading the way in game assets and game management and integration with the Unity engine, with the Unreal engine, and one other that is the latest that is open source that people seem to really like. EOS, whether you like it or not, it's trended a little bit stronger than a lot of things, but it's still, doing that same trajectory upwards. Ethereum Classic, FET's got a while to go. Fuel looks a little bit more like this when you get it in perspective, so nothing but room for growth. Fun, same situation. Gas, same situation. Go was really happy about this range. We actually had a position in it, one in our client, one in our browser, and literally right there is where it needed to clear. We were within 3 points, feeling like, we waited it out through several different periods. We made a lot of money through here, and it was just nice to be right for a half a second there. So sometimes you don't know that you're up on a cliff until you look around and see whether anybody else is there. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's lonely at the top, brother. But it has been kind of succeeding in fighting off the lows. So you can see there is an upward trend there. This one tends to mirror this one. This is actually kind of exactly the kind of thing we're looking at with XRP as well. So interesting stuff. I'm going to go back to the longer view for all this other stuff. Yep. GTO, same lives. Okay. So this was pretty phenomenal that it came up as high as it did in that time. Let me actually see what that looks like over time. We're still kind of looking at the same thing, but in a much better position than a lot of, the lows that others were facing, more like that. IOST, can't really even see what it has done recently until you zoom out of the initial spike. So certainly room for it to double where it is right now. But I don't think that that's going to happen until we see some major correction in the market. There's just, one of the problems I have is that the market, that people are trying to find their information to learn, like, what do I lead off of? What kind of information can I use as a bounce off from where we currently are? And the problem there is that there's a lot of people reporting on stuff that don't know the market, or they don't spend any time trading themselves, apparently. I don't have the corner on all the information in the world, but I do know when what I'm watching hour after hour, day after day, doesn't connect with what I see being reported. That concerns me for people that need something to follow. So here we are, face to face. Personally looking for about this range to correct. So that would take us back around August. And that was, just in the midst of one of the big drops. Do I think that it could come back up to around here? Yeah, I think that'd be great. So I think that it's got a 3x coming sometime in the next couple of months. Phoenix, kind of an interesting one, but it has a shorter life. This is Red Pulse Phoenix, not to be confused with Phoenix, which is just called Phoenix, but I don't really see much going on with it. Yep. Some of these you can almost copy paste and have the exact same picture. Rin. Yeah, another one. Amazing. Topped its initial, or yeah, just barely topped its initial spike. In a market where Bitcoin still hasn't really proven itself beyond 5100 again. It's kind of amazing for an altcoin to be able to outdo its initial launch. Hey, Michael. Yeah, so you're asking, why is XRP spiking tonight? Big candle. And let me come back over it to you for you. That is correct sentence structure. So hope you're there so that I can show this. Going to set this up at. Now, I mean, first of all, isn't it amazing that we're looking at this and it looks like it's not even anything but part of the loss trajectory, right? Okay, so I'm going to go to where Bitcoin's recent thing happened, and here's the answer for you. This was XRP's reaction to Bitcoin going up 700. This was it trying to resync once some of that volume came back. And this was kind of its natural tracking of what Bitcoin has been doing, which Bitcoin has lost 100 and then another 100 in the process, but it's pushed up 50 and pushed up 75. So that's kind of like the 50 and the 75. That's what we see throughout this range. This is what I would call a mirroring, meaning that as Bitcoin is losing $200 million of that huge spike that it did slowly, that XRP is one of the strongest kind of recovery pumps. First of all, there's the natural movement of, now it's low enough to buy back in. But there's the immediate pushback, trying to get it back to where it was before Bitcoin did its pump. So this was natural movement. It was not just, people freaking out and selling stuff. The actual connection of XRP to BTC, even though XRP wants to be decoupled from BTC, it does not have what it takes. In fact, I will show you what I'm talking about over here. So they actually changed the name of, it's not USDS, it's alts. They changed the name of alts. This actually used to just say ETH. This used to just be things that were trading Ethereum against everything else in the marketplace. And so they changed it to alts because XRP was going on a big campaign saying, we're going to decouple from Bitcoin. We're going to be so big that we don't rely on what Bitcoin is doing to do the things that we are doing. Thing is that XRP has been in the 2,000 to 4,000 BTC 24-hour volume range. It's really not enough anywhere close to do the kind of decoupling that they're talking about doing. And I'm not a pro or anti-XRP person. I think people feel very passionately one way or the other. Okay, here's the ginormous XRP market to trade all of, end quote, the alts against XRP. There's Tron and there's XZC. Okay, both of those are in the negative, right? So would you say that XRP is successfully decoupling from Bitcoin? I would say absolutely not. And oh my goodness, Tron. So that and mega that. So if you're looking for an up value in XRP, where are you going to find it? Where are you going to find it? Trading against Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin spikes, throws this way down here, it starts to recover, knocks it down again, starts to recover, knocks it down again, starts to recover. It averages more and more and more towards its real temporary value against massive volume. Volume gets low enough to where those who pump can afford to pump, and now their goal is to get it back where it belonged. The other side of that being that people short Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and XRP and don't really know how to short much of anything else. And I think the thing about shorting, meaning, quick definition just to make sure we're on the same page. You can have a short-term position. You can have a medium-term position. You can have a long-term position. Short, medium, and long-term positions, we're talking about how long you're waiting until you're going to sell it at a profit. Short-term might be an hour or two. It might be a day. It might be a few days, depending on your perspective. Medium-term could be a day. It could be a few days. Definitely not going to be a couple hours. Usually a couple of weeks is fine for a short term. Medium term, I apologize. But you're just saying that, I expect to get 0.5%, 1%, 10% over this many days, maybe 2 weeks or so. And long term is I'm in it for weeks or months. Versus shorting a position, which means that you're intentionally, you have bought it and immediately sold it for the purpose of waiting for it to go down in value. And when it reaches the low that you think that it should reach, then you have finished your short contract, or there's a time-based limit to shorting. So a lot of times there are people that see this coming, and so they're just waiting for the right opportunity to short. Being on both sides of the situation, you can cash in on both of them. I would probably, still wouldn't short no matter what. It's just not my thing. It's a sign of desperation. Some people are really, really, really good at shorting, and I'm not going to argue for or against whether other people should short. But my main thing is right now, the whole market is about mass adoption, and XRP is not going to be the solution for every single thing that an altcoin needs to do. And Bitcoin isn't the only solution for everything that an altcoin needs to do either. So I want to see a strong Bitcoin, and I want to see 4 or 5 really great utility, security, ones that are good for game assets, ones that are good for transactionals, ones that are good for just plain store value, and some of them that are purely good for speculation, coins that have actually proven that they can help to build wealth. So all of those I see as good purposes for coins to serve. Right, got you. Reading this also from Michael. I only have access to Coinbase charts and Crypto Watch. So if you do happen to, well, there is a Binance client for Windows and PC, and there's a Binance version of the charts that you can use on tablets and smartphones, but it's kind of horrible. The chart is a little bit better than some of the others, certainly better than Robinhood, et cetera, et cetera. But I would recommend, if you don't have access to Binance, you don't even have to be signed up to use the Exchange. Choose Exchange Advanced, and you'll see the same view that we're using here. But and if you haven't set it up, then your view might look something like this, and it could even look like this, which is really kind of useless. So you want to at least select 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute. We highly recommend volume, MACD, Bollinger, Stock RSI, VWAP. You get so many different layers of things that you can learn from this, and still it is an incredibly challenging market. So yeah, the bottom line with the answer of XRP is that it did what almost everything did when Bitcoin went shooting up. The volume caused a tsunami, which pulled all of the force towards Bitcoin's up. So it was the sharp, massive wave up. And then once its volume started to come back down, that force of one huge single wave that had pulled the gravity out of everything else started to feed some of that volume, that massive water, back into all the other things. So literally a liquidity model, definitely recognizing the true natural force of nature that a tsunami is, but it's almost a perfect example to represent what that back and forth looks like. So I think it's awesome that you decided to subscribe, and you can also use TradingView if you're looking for a free way to be able to see other coins and connections to coins. I really highly recommend that if you find that you have a natural instinct towards one way to look at things or another, stick with that. Don't try to diversify beyond what you truly understand, because there's enough going on in the market to where if you find that you're good at trading, Ethereum and Bitcoin, or other coins against Ethereum instead of Bitcoin or whatever, I find them so incredibly hyperlinked into Bitcoin that there's no real value in diversifying the way that that's done. But if you're good at forex trading and shorting coins and all these different things, there's ways to go about doing that. I just personally think that we're all looking at mass adoption, and mass adoption really should be trading in support of the liquidity of a valid and healthy marketplace. And to me, shorting, betting against something, maybe later when it is $1 billion a day in volume just on Binance alone, that might be a different scenario. But until we're there, I think anybody that's in the crypto market should be looking for ways, even if it's a little harder, even if it takes a little bit more strength and struggle and purpose to get through it, trading in support of the coins goes a long distance to showing one's support. And we can all get there with a big old smile on our face saying, hey, we did this together, despite all of the other stuff. Our struggle together in the crypto wilderness. So please make sure and sign up for stuff, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, give a thumbs up. Come and join us. When you click on that webinar link, it'll walk you through what we've been doing, answer probably some of the basic coin stuff. You'll either know that already or you don't. But either way, it will help you to come be a part of our community if you want to jump right in with the paid subscription, where we're going to do very in-depth Q&A during live trading. But everybody can sign up for free and just enjoy the market watch. And we have been doing a lot of the live day trading for free, just to let people see what it is that we do. But obviously we're going to need to add more and more of that value to people who are paying for something that is really kind of a high level thing. Most people don't go into the descriptive level of explaining you know, how we're working our way towards billions by doing trading, that we just haven't really seen a comparison from others. 98.7% accuracy is just something that really can't be explained away, and there isn't a technique, process, or system out there that I've seen that anybody has ever even made claims beyond 80%. When we say we do live day trading live without a net, we literally are, you know, we're not using a stop loss on anything. We're just trying to be so accurate that we can afford to hodl the very few times that we do accidentally hodl. And then there's a few that we do as slightly long-term positions on the side when we see an opportunity that we know is eventually going to pay off. So love having you guys around. I'm going to check one last time, see if there are any other questions that should be addressed before I head on. And I think that we're good for now. So thank you guys so much for joining. And for now, Archangel Alts out.